Okay, good afternoon, hello. I have to say, I'm here just to introduce Ed today and ask a few questions, which is a genuine pleasure. Ed pointed out as I came in the room today that I'm dressed in Radio Tel Aviv colours, which I have to say wasn't conscious, but I think on some level is testament to how happy I am to be here. I've known Ed for over 2 decades now. We got to know each other properly studying as undergraduates at Oxford University when Ed was pursuing a degree in ancient and modern history, and we bonded mainly over pints at the local King's Arms pub. My main memory is of sitting on many repeated occasions while Ed, with great patience and only a little frustration, tried to explain some of the situation and some of Israel to me in advance of my international relations paper. After finishing his undergraduate degree, Ed followed his BA with an MPhil in Oriental Studies and Arabic, also at Oxford, and then just a few short years in London, and he made Aliyah in 2006. And it was around this time, as I understand it, and I think very much in response to the new home that he found himself in, that Ed started writing fiction. He tells me that there is an earlier, as yet unpublished novel and a collection of short stories in his desk drawer, so hopefully we might get to see some of that later in life. But either way, I think that it is testament to the fact that Radio Tel Aviv, which for those of you who have read it, and those of you who hope to read it, is really evident on every page with the care and depth in the writing, that this is the culmination of many years' work. Additionally, in the last decade, Ed has finished an MA in creative writing at Bar Ilan University and is now also working on a PhD on Shakespeare's mirrors, also at Bar Ilan, where he has a presidential fellowship to pursue his doctoral research. And it would be remiss of me not to mention among his achievements of the last decade also marrying his wonderful wife Shiri and becoming father to 2 daughters, Libby and Efrat. But for me, when I think of Ed, I think not only of an old friend, but of someone whose intellect, humour and heart I admire. And it struck me reading Radio Tel Aviv that this combination of intellect, humour and heart is really evident throughout the book. For those of you who haven't had a chance to read the novel, it is at core the story of one man's life, Dr. Israel Shines. It's framed as a memoir translated by Ed Evans, and it follows the late Dr. Shines' attempts to make sense of his own life, unearthing memories, both his own and those of his forebears, as he grapples with past, present and future, and what it means to have loved. Loved the radio, loved a friend, loved a woman, loved a child, and loved a place. And I think, as the name of the principal character suggests, this is both the story of a man, but also the story of a country and indeed of a people. It is alternately funny, lyrical, arresting, and deeply moving, I found. But I think the greatest success of Radio Tel Aviv, to my mind, is how it manages to convey a sense of place. Not by over-explaining it, but in the details, the felt moments, the gaps and asides, what is spoken and what cannot be spoken. So my feeling reading it, and when I think back to those conversations with Ed in the pub all those years ago, is I only wish I was able to read that book then. Because I think if I had, I might have just understood a little bit more of what he was trying to convey, and more viscerally, because this is a powerful work of imagination which really manages to bring its world to life. So I think that's enough from me, but I'm very happy to introduce Ed Evans.
So thank you, Nikki, for that glowing, very touching and kind and I think honest appraisal of my intellect and the amount of time that it took to get to this stage. And I know that you as a writer understand how much time and effort it takes, and that these things that you hold in your hand are a culmination of years of work. So anyway, thank you, Nikki, for the introduction. For those of you who don't know Dr. Sayers, she mentioned we're old friends. I think today I sort of decided we're kindred spirits. We were brought up in the same hood, Edward Square, south of Kensington High Street. And we went through the usual system. Nikki was at Godolphin, I was at Paul's, and then Oxford. And then we spent 2 years attempting to pursue careers in the non-literary, non-academic worlds, and both gave up fairly quickly and returned to school. And I think we will both remain there for the rest of our lives. Dr. Sayers has completed, I believe, is still working on final drafts of a book that will be published later this year by Routledge, called The Promise of Nostalgia, or Promise of Nostalgia?
The Promise of Nostalgia.
The Promise of Nostalgia. Reminiscence, Longing, and Hope in Contemporary American Literature and Culture. And I'm hugely looking forward to reading that. I'm slightly concerned, though, that I've got an expert on my hands. And for those of you who've read Radio Tel Aviv, there is a lot of nostalgia. It is a book very much about homecoming, and I just hope you don't give me too torrid a time in interviewing me or interrogating me. But as we all know, what the authors think doesn't matter anyway, so I hope that I can help in some small way, for those that have read it, explain the process and how I got there. Thank you all for coming, because when I got up this morning and looked out of the window, it was a typically gritty and grimy day, and I really didn't fancy getting out of bed myself to get all the way up here to King's Cross, of all places. So it's incredibly kind of you to come and to support and to listen today. And I also know that there are some big names knocking around in these hallowed halls. I know that in 25 short minutes, a little-known chap called Sir Simon Sharma will be hosting a debate somewhere else. I think someone's going to come in and interrupt us and ask you if you want to leave, at which point you will not, you will sit down. Because I've had it on good authority that Sir Simon is happy to play second fiddle to me today, and that this is the main event, and that you should pat yourselves on the back for having chosen wisely. I'm going to start with a joke. It's in content and style, something that I think we can safely say is a Jewish joke. I didn't know really what that meant for a long time in my life, other than it wasn't funny. But I've now got old enough to find the esoteric whimsy beneath the humor not only amusing, but quite instructive. So the joke goes as follows. Saturday morning at the synagogue, and the rabbi is sitting there with his community, and they're all getting ready for a discussion, but instead of posing a question or even lecturing, the rabbi says, "Oh God, God, I'm a nobody, I'm a nothing. Faced with the majesty of your infinite works, I'm a nobody, a nothing." And everyone looks at the rabbi and nods at this incredible sage wisdom. And another guy sitting in the group, he's a successful chap. He runs a pretty big business, and he's also a big character in the community, a macher. He gets the idea pretty quickly, and he goes, "Oh, I'm a nobody, God. I'm a nothing. I'm a total nobody. Oh, faced with your majesty, even I'm a nobody." And the collected nod at the humility of the successful man. Then a scruffy-looking chap who's between jobs, who nobody really notices and nobody really listens to, and especially his wife, says, "Oh God, I'm a nobody. I'm a nothing. I'm a total nobody. God, I'm nothing. I'm a nobody." And the successful man turns to the rabbi and said, who does this guy think he is? To turn you to nobody. Okay, so with that joke over, I hope we'll examine some of the meaning that lurks below that later in our discussion. Maybe it will come back, maybe it won't, but I'm going to go on now to do a reading. After that, Nikki's going to ask a few questions, and then we're going to go to the floor. But it's a fairly informal session, so if at any point during Nikki's questions you want to raise a hand, butt in, and give your own impressions, that would be welcome and would be appreciated. So, I have chosen, for those of you who've read the book, a passage from the wedding scene. It's in fact a few passages, and I hope that they demonstrate or show the range of registers and the different characters and the different tones that are interwoven in the writing. And so for those of you who haven't read it, you'll get a reasonable idea of what it sounds like. So. I took the ring from the rabbi and said, "You are betrothed to me by this ring according to the laws of Moses and Israel." The crowd clapped and sang, and we waited for the rabbi to perform the 7 blessings, and my mind wandered. Din din na, trakadun na na, din din na. Some lucky people are born with nothing to prove. My closest friend, Shalom, and my daughter, Liat, did what they pleased and made everyone happy doing it. Liat, blessed as she is with no sense of self-loathing, had a magic in that grinning head, like Shalom's. I held her hand tight. "Abba," she said. "Yes, darling?" "Abba," she said. She had green eyes like his, seaweed entangling you, and her expression, at rest, had the same pensive melancholy. The rabbi sang, "Pleasing Zion with her children's return," the 5th blessing. Liat tried to loosen the bow in her hair. I let it out and she said, "Ouch, Abba," while smiling. I was impressed by the 2-inch beehive I'd invented, making her round head more oblong.